Do you live out in what we call in the South the boondocks? Like nobody's around, like you're out in the middle of nowhere. A lot of people all over the world live in rural areas or live in places where there are not a whole lot of folks around. And you might be wondering, how in the world do I sell my work in a situation like that? How do I find community? Well, we're going to be talking about that today here on 5 Minute Mentoring. Have you ever wanted to have someone in your life who you could ask real questions about your art, your business, and even your walk with the Lord? Well, that's exactly what we do every Friday here on 5 Minute Mentoring, where I answer one question from one of my awesome podcast listeners in order to help you start really thriving as the artist you know God created you to be. Well, hey, my friend, I'm so glad that you're here with me on 5 Minute Mentoring. You know, lots of people around the world live in areas where there are not a lot of art shows, not a lot of art galleries, not even a lot of artists or people to hang out with that really get what they do. My friend Trevor had that question for me today. He lives way up north in the cold part of the country, up in Minnesota. And here's how he asked the question.
Hello, Matt. My name is Trevor. I live in McBain, Michigan. And the question I had for you is simply, how do you thrive as an artist in isolation? I live in a small town that's pretty much a half hour close to even this, I guess, the next closest big town, which is even got 11,000 people in it. And this isn't necessarily directly related to COVID, but it's just in general, how do you progress as an artist? How do you find destinations for your work? How do you just grow as an artist when you don't live near really much of anything? Thank you.
Well, Trevor, thanks for that. That's a really great question. And again, I really do get that a lot from folks that are in my mentoring program and just, that are asking questions of us all the time on social media. How do you thrive when you live in the middle of nowhere? Well, two things really come to mind. One is, both of them are intentional, but I think the first thing that comes to mind is online. We have this wonderful thing called the internet, and whether it's your sales or whether it's community, you've got to begin to look online to begin to build community and to build sales. Now, how do you do that? Well, obviously, social media is a great way to begin to build connection with people. That's one of the really cool things about our Created to Thrive Artist Mentoring Program. It's all online. We do live events, a couple of times a year, but most of it every week is online where we get together on Zoom. We're doing Facebook Lives. We're commenting. We're talking to each other. There's a lot of collaboration. So finding a community, our community or another community like that for you that can feed you online and help you get that connection with other people is really important. And, also don't be afraid to create that kind of thing for yourself. If you've got other artists that you're friends with, maybe through relationship around the years, over the years, and you want to begin to create, an opportunity where you're getting together on Zoom or in a Facebook group or something like that, again, just to encourage each other, that is really huge. But you have to be intentional about it if you're living in a place where that's not just happening normally. The other thing that I would say that's, obviously you're talking about thriving as an artist. So that's not just the relational side of us and the spiritual side, which is very important, core really to who we are, but also the sales part. Like, how do you thrive in that? Well, two things come to mind with that. Now, again, online, that is making sure that you have your website set up for online sales so that you've got a great website that's mobile friendly where you can display, describe, inspire people through your art, tell the story of who you are, build connection, and then drive people to an opportunity to purchase right there on your website or through a link to a third-party website like Etsy, Fine Art America, Saatchi, any ones that you might be using. That's really important in today's technology-driven age. The other thing is this, and I always, I'm from the South, so I use these little colloquialisms, but I always say, listen, if you want to go, if you want to catch fish, you got to go where the fish are. All right. You got to go where the fish are biting. And if the fish are not in your local area, or if the fish are not biting in your local area, for all of us, we've got to be willing to travel to do in-person shows if you're not just doing online. Now, part of what I teach in the mentoring program is what I call the Parthenon plan, which is a multi-pronged, not multi-stage, but multi-strategy approach, if you will, to really building a healthy, strong, multi-stream of income business. And so part of that's online, not all of it, but part of it also is in person. And so for me over the years, as I grew my art business, not only online, but in person, I was willing to travel, from Atlanta to Philadelphia, from Atlanta to Chicago, or from Asheville to Atlanta, or Asheville to New Orleans, or Charleston, or whatever, for shows and opportunities where I knew that my best clients would be. That takes research. That takes talking to other artists. That takes some investment financially, yes. But you got to go where people are buying. And of course, there are lots and lots of resources online that let you know the best art shows around. You can research that. You can Google that. Remember, Google is your friend. Don't let not knowing something paralyze you. Just get on Google and start looking. And there's lots and lots of websites out there that talk about shows. As all that comes back and starts to come back in this COVID economy that we're all in, there'll be some new shows coming out, new opportunities. But again, you've got to be willing to travel and do those sort of things as you're building your business in order to find the ones that really work for you. Lastly, I would just say, Trevor, in all of that, it takes being intentional. I live in a place, Asheville, North Carolina. We are a retirement mecca. There are a lot of high net worth individuals here, lots of galleries, a real art culture. It's a wonderful place to sell art. I realize lots and lots of people don't live in that opportunity. I've not lived here my whole life. And so you have to be intentional about going where your best client is. Again, whether online or in person or through strategic partnerships or all the other things that we talk about here on the podcast. All right. Best to you, Trevor, as you're doing that, and all of you guys that are looking for those opportunities. Don't be afraid to be intentional and step out. Be prepared. You got to build the net, if you will, in order to be able to catch the fish that you believe God's bringing into your art business. All right. Well, hey, my friend, thanks for being with me here on 5 Minute Mentoring. If you liked this episode, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you next time here on 5 Minute Mentoring. Until then, remember, you were created to thrive. Bye.